Hello again. Welcome to today's session. I am Velin Julie Obiero Tieno, and this is a platform that is uh, always done courtesy of Lafford Teletherapy Counselors. Today we have Gatimo on board, Daktari Gatimo Daniel. Uh, he will explain more, he will introduce himself, and I'm so grateful to have you on board with us today. We are always learning different things. We are always creating mental health awareness in different forums, and we are so glad to have you on board with us. So, Gatimo, we are having you today so that you can teach us. We are ready with our pen and paper to take notes and listen as you teach us and as we discuss more on coping with work stress. And I know you have had different patients with the same problem. So today, just give us the information so that we can take caution and we can always look for ways to work out before we get into a space that is more dangerous. So kindly take over.
Thank you so much. Uh, to hear from you again and to be part of this conversation again. My name is Daniel. I'm a medical psychologist by profession. I am in Kijabe. By the same time, I have my own consultation office. I'm happy to be part of this conversation again as we build more awareness of mental health, as we create awareness in society and help many of us to cope well, many of us to work well, many of us to function well in terms of our own individual perspective, at the same time in terms of family and in terms of work and functioning. And basically, from stress perspective and work-related stress, all of us, provided you're working, provided you're doing something in terms of even if it's volunteering, in terms of something that can bring financial benefit towards you, we face pressure, we face demand, and pressure is good, demand is good, but regardless of anything, regardless of job title, regardless of job, regardless of experience, regardless of age, we all face pressure. We all face demand at our workplaces. And those demand and those pressure, number one, they help us become more effective and more productive. But sometimes when those pressure become too much to bear, when the demand become too large, uh, for you to be able to fulfill the demand, or for you to be able to carry out the demand, it can be mentally or physically disturbing. And by doing that, it can make us ill or unhealthy. That's why it's very important for us to discuss this topic, this topic today, and create more awareness on how we can cope with something that we have to do in our lives. If you want to provide for your family, if you want to provide for your own needs, you have to work. And generally, work is part of us. And at the same time, stress is part of our life. Each and every day is a natural response to our body. So, number one thing I would like us to define what is job-related stress. Job-related stress is a pressure or demand to an individual or a group of people in work that's too much to bear, was too much to conquer it. So at that time, you can feel stress. And we normally experience stress in three dimensions. And by doing so, I'm going to define stress in three aspects. And number one, stress is a defense mechanism. When you are, for example, is a response towards a stressor or stress something that demands something from you. And by doing so, we are defensive people. Biologically, psychologically, even socially, we defend ourselves in each and every aspect. And that mechanism of defending ourselves is what we call stress. Number two, we define stress as stimuli, something that demands response. And by doing so, stress is a change or life event that demands change. A life event or a change that demand response, demand adjustment, and demand adaptation. So stress is a stimuli. And by this time, stimuli, we can say it is a life event, something that changed in your job that demand you to adjust, that demand you to adapt from the change. It can be change in administration, it can be change in supervision, it can be change in management. And by doing so, you have to adjust to the new norms in the industry, to the new norm in the organization. That we call stress as stimuli, a life event or a change that demand you to bring a response. Number three, we can define stress as the way we interact as an exchange. The way you interact with your colleagues, the way you interact with your computer, the way you interact with each and everything that you work with can bring stress in. By doing so, that exchange of things, exchange of energy, exchange of, in terms of conversation, in terms of the way you work together as a team, the interpersonal relationship between one another, that can be stressful to people. And we define that exchange as stress too. So the three definitions of stress that can affect somebody in the workplaces. And number one, is stress and respond. When something happens at workplace, you have to respond to that thing. By so, you undergo stress. An exchange at workplace, yes, that exchange or that change is as stress and demand a response. Uh, there is one thing that I would like us to know again concerning stress. Stress is a natural. And that's why, according to our topic, coping with stress rather than removing the stress. Because most of the stress or the stressor, sometimes we aren't able to remove them, but we are able to adjust, we are able to adapt, we are able to respond and make ourselves able to live either with the stressor itself or modify the stressor or modify ourselves to work effectively and efficiently, even if the stressor is there. Uh, at the same time, there are something that causes stress while we are at work. I will highlight some four aspects of some four areas that we may encounter in our workplace that is the source or are the causes of stress. Basically, number one factor is the environment at work. And when I mean environment at work, these are physical environments or physical factors that they are readily available in our workplaces. No matter where you are, no matter you're a teacher, no matter you're a police, no matter you're a doctor, no matter the work you do, the environment that you're working from, it is very important to understand that that environment can be the main cause of stress in life of an individual. When you work in an extreme environment where it is noisy, where maybe the temperature very high or very low, humidity, uh, and maybe light or illumination in a place where you work where there's too much dark or too much bright can be stressful. Such a physical environment or a factor, it's very important for you to factor it out because it speaks a lot. Uh, Under physical environment, again, there's something called economical. Economical, it is the demand, the physical demand of that job. especially for people who the job demands them to carry heavy product or heavy things, but it can be stressful. Every morning you knew or you have an understanding that you're going to carry heavy stuff from one place to another. It is stressful. The second thing is where a job demands you to stand for a longer period of time, especially for clinical during ward round, for example, you have to stand beside patient's bed one after another. And sometimes by doing that, it is stressful. For example, for the case of a traffic police, they have to stand for longer periods in an open environment or in a sunny day or in a rainy day. And by doing so, that environmental factor, the economic factor that they are enduring at that period can be stressful to them. Then the factor that we normally put precaution in is chemical or biological factors. If you work in a factory where they manufacture chemicals, you have tensions because you understand maybe the chemical are flammable, maybe the chemical are kind of explosive, or they can cause corrosion. And at that moment, you have to be super cautious in every step that you make because the environment itself it can cause havoc within individuals, either body, mind, or anything. Some other factors is either biological, it's even in a lab setting in the hospital. Uh, you have to do a lot before maybe working in the hospital, for example, take hepatitis B vaccine, COVID-19 vaccination, because you're more likely to be infected, especially with infectious disease. We call them nosocomial infection, where you can get infected when you're not sick, or you came in with another sickness, and you can be infected while you are in the hospital, especially if you work in highly risky environment where you can be easily infected with viruses, easily infected with bacteria, easily infected with parasites. Those kind of environments put you at risk uh, of getting infected. By doing so, you become super cautious concerning it. And at the same time, you can be stressed due to environmental factor of our working place. I think the second category you can go is about job, especially with the system that and the days that we are living today. Getting job is kind of very hard in this generation or such a time like this. And when you find a job at this moment, and that job either is contractual. Maybe you have a 1 year contract, and by the end of that 1 year, you are not sure of extension of that contract or getting another job somewhere else. That can be very stressful because I have a job or I'm employed at this moment of the day or at this moment of this year, but by next year, such time like this, I might be jobless again. By thinking in certain direction or in that way, you're more likely to be stressed in the workings because maybe you will do whatever you can do to get that job, but at the end, you're not sure about getting the job. Especially about joblessness. We are in the society where everybody is trying to get whatever they can do, or to do whatever they can manage to get that employment. And we understand many youth in Kenya right now, or many people in Africa, they're still facing the same problem of unemployment. The large number of youth in Kenya, especially, they are unemployed. And that is very stressful when you get a contractual job. And mind you, if somebody retires, most of us will think this person has maybe worked for 20, 30 years, and now it's time for him or her to retire. That retirement part, it can be very stressful, not only because this person has not saved well, but because this person is losing something, some intangible things that this person is losing. Number one, the social interaction. The person, when he or she retires, It's losing social interaction. Number two, when this person retire, is losing identity. If somebody was a teacher, he has lost the identity of being a teacher. If somebody was a police, he has lost the identity of being a police when he retired. If somebody maybe was a doctor, a surgeon, or somebody, he has lost the identity of that name, of that title mostly. You don't lose title, but you lose the identity as far the days go. Number three, something you can check on, you can look on, is job design or job nature. Some job that you're working in can be the source of stress itself. And by so saying or so doing, there you can have a job where it's too much. The job demands too much from you, or the job demands too less. Sometimes the role overlaps, and sometimes there's no role overlap. Like there's role and or underlap. Sometimes we lack control over that job, especially in that of decision making, especially where we are not allowed or where we are not participating in decision making. That makes that job source or that job environment, that job design, and that job nature becomes so stressful towards us. Number three, in terms of job nature or job design, is the job repetitiveness or repetitiveness of job. Some of us we work in a job where we repeat the same thing every day, repeat the same thing every day, repeat the same thing every day. I can give my example by myself. For example, when I work in a job where we only see one kind of patient, they have the same condition, all of them having the same condition, and I've gone to school and I've learned different conditions and how to manage those conditions. What am I going to experience at the end of the short period or certain period I work in that job? Burnout. I'm going to experience like something, whatever I'm doing at that moment is not as effective as what I know. According to my experience at that period or such a time like that, I'm not using or utilizing my entire ability that I have, my entire knowledge of integrity that I have to solve the problem, because the job is kind of repetitive and it can be very stressful to an individual. The first area, the fourth area that I would like us to discuss is about relationship. It's very important for us that are very powerful when you're working with individuals. You can imagine waking up in the morning, going out from your house to a job where everybody are perceived to be enemies, or everybody are perceived to be selfish, as perceived to be egocentric. What happened to your mind at that point? Mostly, we can there's this joke I love using to people about why is Monday so close to Friday, but Friday is so far from Monday. Uh, it's because at that moment you are feeling burnout. The weekend is too short, but the working day is too long, and at that moment is very stressful. So, in terms of relationship, if you have poor interpersonal relationship at work, it can be very stressful to an individual. And in an area where a person or an employee experience we call social where you people are insensitive kind, or where people are condescending, or where people are criticizing too much, you might feel burnout at that stage. And it's very important for us to understand that burnout can be a source of stress in the life of people, and actually the symptom of work-related stress. When you feel that you have burnout, you don't want to do a lot of things at that point, to show that whatever you're doing or the job that you're doing at that stage, it's affecting you in one or the other. And it's time for us to learn, or it's time for us to change, or it's time for us to adapt, so that we can be more healthier and effective at our workplace. So, I'd like us to ask question or ask question later concerning that. But before that, let us talk a little bit concerning strategies and techniques that we can use to cope with stress. And I think one of the techniques that are very important for us to know is where techniques are so or much more individualistic than in terms of social aspects or in terms of individualistic. Individualistic is better because you can do something that can help you, and by doing so, you're helping other people to cope with stress. And number one thing that I would like us to discuss are coping strategies. And coping strategies are more individual focused at first, because when you deal with your own self, you're more likely to deal with the other aspect. Because I understand, especially in family, we all take job-related stress to our homes, and by doing so, we affect our spouses, we affect our children, or we affect our siblings. And it's very important for us to understand that, and it's very important for us to cope with stress, because especially with job-related stress, it's something that you can't change. There are many things that are over your power, but there are many other things that are under you. You can modify, you can change, you can translate, you can transact, and it's very important for us to understand this thing is stressing me. Can I modify it? Can I change this stressor? Can I modify it? Can I remove it? And most of us, especially in terms of administrative factor, you can't change your manager, or you can't change your boss, or your supervisor most of the time. Either you change the job, but at the same time, you can understand and learn that my boss is kind of this kind of a person, and my job or my colleagues are kind of this kind of people. So there's some things they can do towards that, and there's some things they can do towards that. And I want us to go with the first coping strategy. The first coping strategy we call problem solving or problem focused coping. Problem focused coping, it is very direct, and the only problem that comes, or the one of the disadvantage of focused coping is the time to solve the problem. Very important. I normally use two scenarios. When two people are angry or mad towards each other, that's not the right time to solve the problem. Let them cool down, start thinking logically after some few minutes, and then you can solve the problem. So with problem focused, timing is very important if you want to solve the problem, either with your colleagues, either with your boss. You can't solve a problem where two of you are mad or angry. Find a time and to solve a problem when things are cooled down, especially for job. When your boss is angry, that's not the time to go and tell the boss, no, you're wrong. No. Or when your colleagues are mad towards you, that's not the time to solve a problem. You can cool down, relax first, even go home and come back tomorrow. You can solve the problem more easier when all of you are thinking logically. So problem focus is one of the key things to deal with at our job, because you're working with people that you're more likely to see them every day and work with them for longer hours. So if you have a problem with them, you're more likely the best option there is to solve it. It's more easier or sort of seek to working. Number two is emotional focus coping, because most we are affected. People can say something to you, and for them it's not a big deal, but for you it becomes a big deal. Why? Because you become emotionally affected. Either you become mad, your self-esteem kind of drops, and if you are emotionally disturbed, it's very important for you to flag off, fed up the emotion to somebody. You can talk to somebody you know, somebody you trust. If you're married, you can talk to your spouse. If you have siblings, you can talk to them concerning it. Make sure that that emotion, if you are not emotionally managed by what is going on in your work. That is very important. Number three, number three is something called appraisal. Appraisal, where you find out that the work that you're doing is kind of new to you. Either you don't have the skills to do that, or there's no appraisal. Especially we are self-criticizing. We can criticize ourselves so easier than people doing it. Especially when you realize I wanted to get certain numbers this month, but unfortunately you didn't get the numbers. Maybe your boss has no problem with that, but you have a problem with that. Maybe your colleagues have no problem with that, but you have a problem with that. With appraisal, number one thing to do is for you to create a way of thinking positively, even if you have small achievements. Let me use an example. For example, if it is Sunday in the evening and you are working towards getting 20,000 by the end of the week. This means at least you need to get 4,000 by the course of the 5 working days to get to 20,000. You strategize, wake up in the morning that Monday. You strategize to work hard that day, at least to get 4,000 that Monday, knowing that within the five working days in a week, I'm gonna get 20,000 by the end of that week. What happened when that Monday, instead of getting 4,000, you get 400? It's kind of demoralizing. But it's for us to kind of think and imagine that from that small positive thing that we have done, we have seen, this means you can work more, either much harder or much smarter, and at the end of the week, you can get something. But at the same time, we can easily be demoralized in that the difference between 4,000 and 400 is kind of almost 100% difference. And by doing so, we are more likely to veer off to the path of negative in that we can't achieve it. There's no way you can get 20,000. After getting 400 instead of getting 4,000, there's no way. Our mind is more likely to go to a negative aspect. And by appraisal focus coping, help us to go to a positive aspect of what you are doing. Imagine now you didn't have that 400, but now you have it. A small progress. Very small, but it's a progression. That's very important. Number two, towards the same appraisal, is about skill. If you find your job is kind of demanding in terms of skills, what you can provide is a little from what the job demands. What you do, just seek knowledge. Learn something that can help you to cope with that job. Learn some skills, learn some practice. Go to workshops and learn how to manage that job and learn how to get that. It's very important. There's no magic in that. You have to find skill. You have to learn from your colleagues. You have to learn from somebody else. You have to learn from your supervisor in managing, especially sometimes when we can be very stressful when we are in managerial position. When you are either a supervisor or a leader in certain departments, learn from other leaders from certain other departments, what they are doing differently. When you're a leader, it's not a position where you know everything. That's the problem with us. When you are in a leadership position or administrative position, we get to imagine that you have to know everything at that point. Find skill, find knowledge, learn from one another, very important. Number four, in terms of coping strategies, there's something called avoidant coping. And most of us will do this thing. You quarrel with your friend or you have disagreement with your colleague. What do you do? For the sake of peace, we avoid confrontation. For the sake of peace, we avoid the argument. And by doing so, the emotions still remain. We are mad toward each other. We are mad toward the boss, toward the supervisor, towards our colleague. So with avoidant coping, we call it is maladaptive kind of coping because at the end, it turns back to us. It's kind of something that stabs you at your back, something that you carry. It's kind of you're carrying a crocodile behind your back emotionally, and we also do that in terms of our practicality, where you find out that the job that you are doing is kind of demanding, or the job that you are doing is kind of very heavy for you to do. What do? You kind of ignore the job, you escape, or you procrastinate. The part of procrastination now comes in. Type of coping strategy that we call avoidance, and it's very maladaptive. You procrastinate doing the same job every time. I'll do tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, you are not in a position to do it. Kind of, I'm not learning. So procrastination is among or is part of avoidance coping strategy, and it's dangerous because at the end you find out you have not done anything towards that job. Even if the job is stressful, even if the job is kind of demanding, you have not started. So especially with us, if you want to adapt for procrastination, learn to do a job steadily and progressively. Especially if the job must maybe large period of time. You have 3 weeks to do certain job. What did you do? You wait till the last week? No. The first week do a portion, the second week do a portion, the third week do a portion. Procrastination requires small portions and steady. By the end of the time, you learn something towards it. So, I think the other part about coping strategy, I can touch on different occasions in terms of behavior, in terms of physical activity, in terms of relationship, thinking. Because before we do something, we think first. And if uh, if the job is hard, for example, or if the boss is mad, especially for people who are employed, you know the days where boss is mad, you know the days where supervisor is crazy, Mondays or any day. The moment I get office, I get the boss is mad or something, the boss is crazy. Or even yourself, you know, if you're employed or you are self-employed, especially self-employment, in terms of business, you're doing a business, and in your mind, you know, Mondays are good days, but Fridays maybe are bad days. If you go with that mentality, you'll be excited on Monday, but you're not excited on Fridays or Tuesdays or the rest of the days because you know those days are bad, especially for a new job where you start a new business, a new job, or kind of something. When you realize there's some days they're kind of they bring negative energy. You'll have some generalization, overgeneralization. We call it overgeneralization. This person is mad, or the supervisor is crazy. This means the entire organization on Monday is crazy. You understand? My supervisor doesn't like me. This means the organization, for you, it's like the organization doesn't like me. We call it overgeneralization, especially with cognitive distortion. I don't want to go deeper about cognitive distortion because such a topic by itself. Then something we can do to cope with the working related stress. Something called relaxation techniques. They're very important and they are very effective when anybody is stressed, especially when you have, we call it overthinking or raising thoughts. You think about this today, you think about this right now, like you don't know what you're thinking at that moment, or whatever you're thinking is negative and you can't control it. At that time, we use something called relaxation technique. One is breathing exercise. They are very effective. Number two is mindfulness. Number three is meditation. Let me talk about mindfulness today. because I love it. I love mindfulness. Mindfulness is very because it is our five senses. And when we use our five senses, we are able to control our mind or control the aspect of our thinking. And number one, you use sight. Number two, you use uh, touch. Number three, you use hearing. Number four, you use smelling. Number five, you use taste. And with mindfulness, it's where you stop a thought that is kind of persisting in your mind. A thought that is negative, that gives a sad feeling, irritable feeling, negative energy, kind of. Or when you realize that thought is kind of affecting you, but you're not able to control it, now you use mindfulness. And by using mindfulness, we use the five senses that I've already mentioned. And let me give a simple instruction concerning that. Number one thing that you normally do whatever place you are, especially in a room where you are restless, you are raising thoughts, maybe you're sad, you're unhappy, you feel like you're out of control. That time is very important for you to practice relaxation technique. And with mindfulness, we use like five instructions. Let me try to highlight them very fast. The first instruction is you mention five things that you can see. The power of sight. Mention five things that you can see. Number two, mention four things that you can touch. Very important again. Touch. You're communicating to your brain. Whatever I've seen, it's not dangerous. Whatever I've touched, it's not dangerous. Uh, Number three is you mention three things that you can hear, and number four, you mention two things that you can smell, and number five, you mention one thing that you can taste. You can eat the food or any kind and try to evaluate some ingredients in it, within the food, some taste within a drink. It's very important for you to do that. And because from the five senses, our body or our brain is able to bring an interpretation. When you feel restless, that is communication from our brain because either of our thoughts or of our feelings. And for us practicing mindfulness, we are able to communicate to our brain back, and the brain is able to translate that we are in a peaceful environment. Very important. The other part is physical activity. If you love playing a sport, it's an important part for you to practice it or participate in it. Uh, Try finding a physical activity hobby. Sometimes the simple thing you can do in our houses, you can practice stretching, stretch yourself out. Very important. As simple as that. Learn some two or three styles of stretch, and it can be very important in terms of stress management. Number three is behavior. Actually, this is again very important in terms of behavior skill training. When you're dealing with stress, very important, especially at our workplaces. Uh, when you find out that you have a work, this either you're not managing your time very well in one activity to another. And at that moment, when you learn behavior skill training, when you do behavior skill training, it's very important for you to learn how to manage time from one activity to another. That is very important. Number two, planning your activity, especially when you're traveling quite a distance from your home to the workplace. It's very important for you to understand how many time do I use in terms of walking, uh, in terms of the distance, in terms of time you cover towards from your home towards the job. And by doing so, you'll find out that if I want to be on time at my job, there's some activity in the morning I can't do. So those activities that they are important for you to do in a day, but you can't do in the morning, you can plan yourself to be doing them in the evening prior to the night. Very important, so that when you wake up in the morning, you're not in a place where you have to do a lot of things within a quite shorter period of time, so that you won't be late at work. Planning, very important. The last part about behavior skill training is prioritizing, especially with work. Start by prioritizing important things that you have to accomplish first, so that the rest of the other activity you can do them with time. Because with job, you're not working, especially when you're not working for yourself. Even if you're working for yourself, there are important things that you have to manage them, or you have to do them, so that you can be able to either sustain your work, at the same time you are able to sustain your department. That it is very important for you to prioritize that activity or that job, so that you don't face stress, or you face a lot of opposition in terms of mm, appreciation or appraisal. The last part is environment, which most of us you can do a little towards it. You can change uh, maybe the kind of building that you're working, especially when you're employed, but you can consider inquiring from the management. Especially all of us, we have different preferences. There's some people want to work at a temperature of like 29 degrees. Some of us we want to work at a room temperature. Some of us we want dimmer light. Some people want brighter room. So this kind of environmental changes is something that either you adapt or probably. Yes. I think that sounds good. Maybe I can talk about this. But it still depends with severity of stress, because some symptoms are majorly, I can call them, they can now be either severe, mild, or moderate. But most symptoms that we get are kind of mild to moderate aspect. And it's very important for us to understand some of the physical symptoms, cognitive symptoms, emotional symptoms, so you can manage them huko nyuma. I think I should have started with the symptom, but it's all okay. When you find yourself, maybe you have consistent headache, this kind of symptom of burnout or stress, chest pain, muscle tremors or muscle pain, fatigue. Yeah, let me start with mild. Mild to moderate symptoms of stress can be headache, fatigue, and sometimes burnout, kind of symptom, physical symptom of stress. Severe symptoms can be now vomiting. Severe symptoms can be muscle tremors. Severe symptoms now can be uncertain or unexplained or unusual fast. At that moment now you can be in severe cases in terms of physical symptoms. Emotional symptoms can be severe cases is depression and anxiety, but most of mild to moderate symptoms, you feel guilt, you feel fear, it can involve anger issue, small but steady anger issue. When the symptoms when the symptom is kind of exacerbated with the stressor, can be intense at that point. You feel excessive sadness, irritability, lack of sleep, or you sleep too much, lack of appetite, or we eat too much. Because we have two types of depression. Typical depression or normal depression, where people lack appetite and and they have insomnia, lack of sleep. But with atypical depression is where now you eat too much or you sleep too much. At the same time, you can develop anxiety from uh, too much stress, and where you have excessive fear, especially with the environment. As I explained earlier about the nature of the environment, where you're working in chemical industry or you're working in a place where you are exposed to bacteria or biological infectious diseases, you can be extremely fearful towards the environment itself. You don't want to touch anything. you don't want to cross the road, especially something like that, or you don't want to go to a working place because you fear that something might explode and you might die. Especially if you work in a petrol station where the petrol exposes kind of more exposes you to flame. If there's possibility of any mistake or any accident, you're more likely to die. So fear, the fear of that scenario, or the fear of that situation, if it's very intense in that you fail to go or report to a workplace, that is affecting your functionality and work. It's very severe that case. The last part I want to talk about cognitive. And in terms of cognitive, it's very important for you to understand about your attention and concentration because that is kind of mild option that start mild to moderate symptom. Your concentration is kind of partially distorted in that you can't concentrate within certain duration of time. Even watching television, reading a newspaper, scrolling within your phone and trying to read a paragraph, you find yourself maybe you can't concentrate 10 minutes, 5 minutes to read a paragraph. Sometimes you have now confusion. Confusion mostly now severe cases of cognitive distortion or cognitive symptom. When you have confusion, nightmares, memory loss, and sometimes you have poor problem solving skills at that time. For example, maybe your colleague amekwambia something simple, unakuja akakwambia you don't look good today like yesterday. That something is small. It's not something that can make you extremely angry. But right now, you can't solve that problem easily. Maybe for you, like me spending, I don't like somebody telling me that. Instead of you just responding simply and easier, you get extremely mad, you start a fight. So you see, we normally that is a kind of severe case of stress symptom. Yes, oh, there's the other part of behavior symptoms. Behavior symptoms, I didn't talk about them, but they are very important. Especially, these symptoms are now what people can see, not what you can feel. What people can see. Some people can see restless in you. Today, you're normally maybe quiet, but now today you're hyperactive, or you are hyperactive person, social person, but today you're not social. Why are you quiet? Some people might ask you, why are you quiet? Or, are you okay today? Because in terms of behavior, you've kind of changed. Sometimes the irritable mood kind of increases. Something small, you are irritated. Your computer take time to load itself, kind of, or to open up your mind towards the computer, your mind towards the laptop, or somebody comes late, your mind towards that person. Of course, with antisocial behavior at that point, it's severe case. Or in terms of behavior, there's an increase with alcohol consumption. And we know alcohol consumption of this we call risk behavior, they're kind of part of a coping mechanism. And when we find out that maybe there's an increase in alcohol consumption or substance abuse, we are more likely to see problem, and it's one of the symptoms of stress, that of behavior. Yes, maybe I can stop there. If you have some question now, we can ask. Interaction period or interaction time.
Gatimo, thank you for the well prepared session, and we have learned a lot from the session. Earlier, someone had asked a question, but you have already replied to it. So, fortunately, the question was, how can I recognize the signs of work stress? But I think you have dealt with it. So maybe if you can give more tips, better.
Your motives, next time. Uh,
Yeah. Or if you
in
can
terms of
just
work
pardon
related
the
to
others that you had said.
okay, sorry, I didn't hear clearly. Can you repeat?
Can you hear me? Am I audible enough? The question was, how can I recognize the signs of work stress?
Mhm. Okay, that's okay. Yes, as you have said, I touched on it earlier, but I can repeat it for more clarity. I think
Mhm.
number one, you can normally we see the difference when we are excited when you have a new job. When we have a new job, we are kind of excited, proactive, working towards achieving our goal, working towards achieving our plan or our dreams. But when we find out now, even we are not thinking about the dream itself. That's kind of one area that you might find out that now I'm going to be, I'm affected, but I'm going to be affected with the job because now the reason we went to work there mostly is not there or is not improving. Sometimes you can go or you can find a job so that you can have a basic need, but you find out the job is too good for you to start thinking big because in terms of the way the environment is, maybe the monetary advantage or something towards the job is more sweet that you can kind of see the future with the job itself. So mostly the basic thing you can start to understand that maybe my job is affecting me is the changes that the job itself has brought in your life. If the changes
Mhm.
as many as they are very negative more than positive, they they have not caused the stress, job related stress, but they are more likely to cause it, especially in terms of even home interaction. Because especially, let me use for the case of married couples. For men, they sometimes tend up to focus more on the job and not the family when the job is stressful to them. And for the ladies, mostly, not all, they end up focusing on the family more than the job itself. And these two people, uh, now they have comes out where you people work in the same job environment, dangerous. But for an individual who work in a certain environment and want to identify some of the problems, apart from the symptoms, you can check on the something tangible that you can see. Maybe the dreams have changed. Maybe you started thinking about getting another job because the environment is not good. Maybe you've started thinking about even starting your own because now the job is not a good place to be. So as simple as that, even before the symptom, because the symptom comes after you have been affected in the stress stuff. But from the first line, you can see the change of mentality, there is change of emotions, there's change of many things towards the job itself. Because the first time you can imagine how the job will be, but now the imagination can up fading from what you expected.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think another question was sent to our email privately. So let me look for it and maybe you can get to answer it. How can I achieve my work life and family life balance?
I think I love that question. That question is very important. And number one, I'll start by saying, no, not everyone is perfect. No, like all of us, we aren't perfect towards that. We need balance, and every day is an opportunity to learn how to balance, especially with family and especially with work. It's something that we learn each and every day, each and every moment towards that. But number one thing, as I said earlier, time management, planning, and prioritizing. You can start with. It's very important. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's time for job, there's time for family. Plan it very carefully so that when you have certain job or certain work, especially for people who they can work at the office and still they can continue the same work at their home places. For them, they are more likely to bring work environment to their homes. Unlikely to people who wakimaliza na kazi in the office is done, they can go home and chill and relax with the family.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, you can start by time management, have time for family and have time for job. Number two, plan well. Finish your work on time so that you can create time with the family. Number three, prioritize. There's time for family and there's time for job. And another part is emotional part. Do you remember about appraisal, about coping, uh, problem focus coping, emotional focus coping, appraisal coping? I will talk about
Yeah.
emotional focus because with
Yeah.
emotions, I don't want you to bring your working emotions to your family in a negative
Mm-hmm.
way. Share it with your spouse, but now don't translate the emotions to your spouse or to your children. The part of sharing it out and the part of acting it out. Because most of us sometimes when we are frustrated at our work and we can't beat our boss because we have to keep that position, what do? We can beat up our children when they do something small and it irritates us. Especially, I want us to notice when you find out that you are easily irritated or easily angered with your kids when they mess up a little bit, it's now time to try to build up yourself in terms of emotion. It's now time to balance it, especially emotional. In terms of behavior, is something that you can do. You can manage your time, you can plan, you can prioritize. But with emotions, it's something else. Because at your workplace you feel like people don't love you, or at your workplace you think like people don't appreciate you. In your workplace you think people think you're ugly, you're not beautiful, they didn't love your hairstyle, they didn't love your clothes. So you're more likely to bring that to your family. You're more likely to bring that to your spouse. You're more likely to bring that into your home. And it's very important as a person, especially in terms of emotion, to balance it very clear, very carefully. And sometimes I have patients who complain toward that because, especially for the case of men, they think if men are in this room, they need to change a little in terms of emotional expression. Because I've seen patients where they are kind of emotionally drained at work, but they can't share with their spouses because the spouses don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're the person more likely for them to share with, because they won't kind of gossip about it. They will do a lot concerning it. And some of them, they just want to be listened to. They don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to bring answers. They just want you to hear them out. And it's very important for you to listen to your both sides. If you don't have something to tell you emotionally, just listen. If your wife has something to tell you emotionally, listen. Most of it you can't solve it, but by listening, it helps.
Thank you. Thank you again. And Gatimo, now you can tell us where we can find you so that when we need you after the session, we can always find you somewhere.
Okay.
And I think I'm also going to share your LinkedIn profile. Yeah. So you can tell us where to find you.
Uh, I'm Jack of what do you call Jack of many trades. I love business, I love working, I love employment, but I have my own mental health institution of consultation firm, Trust Mental Health Care. The address is in Italy, but you can have online sessions. But by my own self, I work at Kijabe Hospital right now. I'm in Kijabe Hospital as a
Mhm.
and at the same time, you can find me in my platform, but mostly through LinkedIn and Facebook page, Mental Health Trust Mental Health Care. At the same
Mhm.
time, you can find it for description within this conversation. The link we
Mhm.
share. At the same time, you can call us. We have the link. You can contact us and you can find us. If you want, maybe, especially for those who maybe they are in administrative position or they are managers of different departments, we always do stress debriefing, departmental stress debriefing to the companies. Uh, Especially right now, we can do it within Nairobi, but mostly we can also do it within Kitale or
Mhm.
wherever place you like us to do for us to address that because stress debriefing is very important with the company or organization because different employee or even the employers they face stress in their daily function.
Mhm. Then the last thing I would like you to do, just along your career line, you have met people who have inspired you, you have met people who have motivated you. I think we should give a shout out. Whoever you feel like giving a shout out to, you
Mhm.
can give a shout out to them for the
Okay.
motivation, for the help they have given you, for employ, for anyone you feel that has helped you along the way.
Okay. That's a good opportunity because I think one of the people who have taught me about self-reliance, even if I can be employed or I'm employed, but I can still work in my own capability in different aspects. I met another person when I was in college. His name is called Dr. Bruno Kal. Dr. Bruno is one guy that can teach you a lot in terms of life
Mhm.
experience. And he was my mentor when I was in campus, and he's still my mentor till today. We communicate, uh, we still plan and strategize on different aspects where we can grow financially. And
Mhm.
that man is a good man. I think I won't fail to talk about other mentors, even if they are some of us, some of them aren't with us today. And I think I lost people who are very dear to me. Number one is Dr. Edith Koba. Dr. Edith Koba was one of the person who kind of inspired me to go deeper into mental health. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, we lost her late last year. Bad
Mhm.
experience. At the same time, when I was in school again, I had another professor. I love people. I had another professor, David. Oh my God. You know the second name. He was one of the person who you can share with anything that you want to share. The guy can motivate you, the guy can encourage you. It was good. And basically, I have a team of my classmates. I mean, university people.
Mhm.
We still have a group, and we kind of open up any opportunity that open up to us. We don't stick with it. We give chances. We call them. We send links to them so that they can support us. They can get job opportunity, even if it's a long term, a short term, a contract job. It's one of the key things. My family is great support.
You
I haven't
have
mentioned my anybody in my family,
you have not mentioned
but my
anyone in
family are great.
I've not heard you mention anyone who paid the school fees.
But my family are great support. All of them, all of my family members, great support. Yes.
Yeah, family and their support is always a very big part of individual growth. And yeah, so it has been a nice session. We have had people logging in, logging off, but we have had like 5 people constant on YouTube and others on LinkedIn. So we'll get to know more, we'll get to talk about mental health awareness more. And as we prepare for different things, we always want to also involve others in what we are doing. So thank you, Gatima, for always taking your time. And you have always taught us a lot. And one thing with these sessions, I even learn more. I thought I already knew more or much about mental health. But every time we talk about it, I always learn something new. And the there's something that you have always mentioned, that mention, okay, look in the room you are, mention 5 things you can see, mention 5 things you can touch. And I think that works for me. I've been trying it and it works for me. So it's always good to learn, and every day we take a chance to learn new things. And yeah, we get to be better when we concentrate on things that can help us, that can build others. So I think uh, for today we have exhausted what we had to discuss. And guys, Gatimo's LinkedIn uh, link is on the comments, and it's now we are sharing it on the screen currently, so you can always reach him. And if he's open for sessions, he can always involve you, and you can always reach him on, he has said, Facebook. He's also on LinkedIn. And which one have I forgotten?
X, X,
X,
but
former Twitter.
Instagram is very personal.
He's also on X, former Twitter. So for today we have done our part. So kindly go do more research, or you can always contact us to find more. And we have to say goodbye for now. Anything else, Katimo?
Uh, for me, what I can say, because I've been trying to do research concerning the effectiveness of departmental stress debriefing, how effective
Mhm,
is it? And I think if anybody within the audience or within the team can join me in doing that, even if you won't do the same research, but at the same time, you can tell the world how effective it is in terms of departmental stress debriefing to the organization. Because for me, I
mhm,
feel I've done several researches, actually not several, one research, but several practical. And I
mhm,
found out it's very important because for people who have engaged with departmental stress debriefing, they always call us back to do the same. Because, and for me, I want a written document, a published thing concerning departmental stress debriefing. People can involve themselves in research. I think it's an area where all of us can grow towards that. Especially in terms of research, it's something that most people have not, no paper have been published concerning department of business. For us to do the same, if you can try to publish something that never been published before, or engage ourselves in something that have never been there before, and prove the effectiveness, efficiency, and effectiveness of each, is very important for such a time like this. Especially where mental health is very important and critical part of our life in this generation.
mhm. Yeah, hope they will get back and give us more and give us a bit of contribution on the same. And for now, I think we can end the session. Maybe if
Thank
you
you
have
very
any
much. Yeah.
other additions. You say departmental
Departmental stress debriefing. For
stress
example, stress debriefing,
or
departmental.
debriefing.
Yeah. So let me give you an example. For the
Mhm,
case of hospital setting, we have different departments. We have MCH, we have ICU, we have
mhm,
medical ward, we have general wards, we have emergency department, outpatient department. And especially we normally have the briefing for critical areas, like for hospital
mhm,
settings, we normally have the briefing for emergency and maybe ICU, but they end up forgetting the other department. Apart from having maybe a quarterly or a yearly debriefing, departmental debriefing to talk about the progression, it's very important to talk about stress in departmental settings. Maybe you have 10 people, 8 people with a specialist, talk about stress. The things that commonly affect you. Because different people have different reaction toward the same stimuli, and this stimuli is now the stress. If there's a way I kind of react differently and cope well with the same stress that are kind of killing or depressing my other colleagues, I can share it
mhm,
in departmental debriefing. At the same time, the specialists in the team or within the circle, they are able to
mhm,
identify people who are affected and they are able to therapy session. For me, actually, I go towards that departmental debriefing. If people can engage in and do more research and show the
mhm,
effectiveness of it, it can kind of create another picture in the organization. Yes. And the other time I shared about doing it in bank within Kitale town, and it was very effective because it's something that they have never. Yes.
mhm. Yeah, I will have to
I
look
think
at.
finally I would say
I think I will also have to take time and maybe do some basic research or research on it so that maybe we can discuss about it next time when we will be ready and when we will have organized everything related to it so that we can just create the awareness. Whoever is more interested in knowing more can join the research, or whoever in which way they want to join the research, they can join. So thank you for taking your time and thank you for always being available. Till next time, we have to say goodbye. Have a nice one. Have a nice day, nice night.